Hebrews, Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Sabbath class, the 17th of December, 2022. What we'll be dealing with later on is we're going to try to put a nail on the coffin, dealing with the Sabbath conversation. We're going to pick that back up from Friday night. We're asking everybody to go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening, and check out our videos. There's a lot of information given, and these videos will connect dots for you and bring you into the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving on Prophets of Awakening, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'd be greatly appreciated. And for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our evening Sabbath class. We're going to do our moment of silence, evening Sabbath prayer, Psalms, and then little current events, and then some need to know information. Then we'll go into to some open dialogue and go into the conversation. Okay. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongeth unto thee. Therefore we come before thee at this hour, seeking thy face, looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servants David, Solomon, and Samuel, and Hezekiah did, that we may walk before thee in truth and in righteousness and in rightness of heart. Give unto us, O Lord, an understanding heart, that we may discern between good and bad, for you possess the power to turn us, O Lord. For we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, and to keep your commandments, your testimony, your statutes with all our heart and soul, and to perform the words of the covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon thy people. Hear our plea. Hear and do, O Lord, and hide not thy face from us, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to read our Psalms. Okay. I'm going to read Psalm 21. It's a praise for victory. It's a Psalm of David. The king shall joy in thy strength, O Lord, and in thy salvation. How greatly shall we rejoice. Okay. How greatly shall we rejoice. Thou hast given him his heart's desire, and hast not withheld the request of his lips. Selah. For thou prevented him with the blessings of goodness. Thou settest a crown of pure gold on his head. He asketh life of thee, and thou gave it him, even length of days, forever and ever. His glory is great in thy salvation. Honor and majesty hast thou laid upon him, for thou hast made him most blessed forever. Thou hast made him exceedingly glad with thy countenance. For the king trusteth in the Lord, and through the mercy of the Most High he shall not be moved. Thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out those that hate thee. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. Their fruit shall they destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. For they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischief device which they are not able to perform. Therefore shall thou make them turn their backs, and thou shalt make ready thine arrows upon thy strings against the face of them. Be thou exalted, O Lord, in thine own strength. So will we sing and praise your power. So that was Psalms 21. It's a praise for victory, and it's a Psalm of David. Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. We got a current event right here.
Slave reparations is a hot topic that we hear more and more each day. Well, Albany, New York, is another location that is trying to get slave reparations for the descendants that are there. Well, Mayor Eric Adams just came out and said he supported reparations for Albany, New York. You know, I don't trust this dude for real, y'all. It's just been too many things that he's been shady on. But I'm going to go ahead and play this audio for this particular story. So it's New York City Mayor Adams back, renewed push for reparations bill in Albany. NYC Mayor Adams backs renewed push for reparations bill in Albany. Mayor Adams expressed support Thursday for an effort in Albany to lay the groundwork for Black New Yorkers to receive reparations for slavery, saying specific attention should be paid to still existing companies that benefited from slave labor. We need to zero in on some of those corporations and companies that the foundation of their wealth came from slavery, Adams said, without naming names. This is long overdue and something I supported for many years. Adams' comments come amid a renewed push for legislation that would create a reparations study commission in the Empire State, similar to a statewide panel established in California in 2020. The California Reparations Task Force is currently working with a team of economic consultants on possible monetary figures associated with the impact of slavery, as well as past housing discrimination practices, mass incarceration, and other harms done to Black residents. A similar measure that would have created an 11-member committee to study potential reparations for Black New Yorkers stalled in the state.
This indestructible $99 drone is now available at the
after being passed by the Assembly last year. Adams said Albany lawmakers should make the renewed push a priority. This country was built on free labor, and we are who we are because of that free labor, Adams said. That free labor destroyed the foundation of African Americans that worked on plantations, made cotton key, the tobacco industry, many of the banking industries. A lot of these industries are where they are because of it. The government has an obligation to deal with it, and I'm 100% supportive of what they're doing, he added. Assemblywoman Mikkel Salages, D. Nassau, who chairs the New York Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic and Asian Legislative Caucus, welcomed the mayor's backing. To have a Black man, someone in such an important leadership role as mayor of the city of New York, I thank him and encourage other colleagues to get behind the commission to take a look at reparations, Salages told the Daily News. The Assemblywoman has been working with experts from across the country and monitoring similar measures in other states as she prepares to reintroduce the revamped legislation. We're currently in the process of fine-tweaking it, but when we submit it, we believe it will be a bill that passes the legislature and we'll be able to convene and talk about reparations, Salages said. Senator Jabari Breesport, D. Brooklyn, said Adams is on the right path, highlighting the role still existing companies played in the slave trade, noting that banks used slaves as collateral and insurance companies wrote policies insuring slave owners against the loss or death of their property. I think it says something to the wide range of support when someone as conservative as the mayor is also supporting a bill like this that will uplift the community, so I'm grateful for everyone who comes out in support of the bill, Breesport added. Yeah, renowned Reese is, Yeah, they're right about that. You know, there are a lot of institutions that exist today: banking, insurance, colleges, universities. I mean, just to name a few. And this government was very much behind slavery, and they never came out and opposed it in a big way when the revenue was rolling in. So trust me, even beyond the American borders, owes reparations. So, you know, I'm glad Albany is working towards this, but I really think this should be a New York thing. Why not the entire state of New York when you know so many people there are descendants of slaves, you know? And this once again quashes that notion that many of us were taught when we were in school that slavery was in the South. That is so not true. You know, even here in my state, and I have told y'all before, there are slave cemeteries in New Jersey, in New York, in Connecticut. They're up here. You know, see, this is why they want to bulldoze stuff down or put parking lots on top of those graves or buildings on top of those graves and, you know, cover it up. I mean, let's be real. With the amount of slaves that were once in America, there should be slave cemeteries everywhere. And they have gone above and beyond to try to hide these things, building neighborhoods over it, building schools and government agencies on top of these graves. So you don't even know they were ever there. Just like they bulldozed down all the black towns that were up and down I-95 and put the highway there. So you never know, up and down the eastern quarter of the US were a bunch of black towns built by the hands of those former slaves. You will never know it was there because this is the kind of rotten stuff that they do in this country. So I'm glad California and now Albany, New York, and hopefully it'll be more states across the country working towards reparations. To me, it's the least you can do for all the hell we have been through.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Man, that just sounds like we getting ready to get up out of here.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah,
Yeah, but they do try to make it seem like that slavery was only in the South, you know. And once you start doing your research, you'll see that some of the biggest slave plantations were in the North.
exactly. Right. Yeah, that example of that was is that I don't know if anybody really seen it, but that movie 12 Years a Slave. The guy that was in that movie, uh, he was captured from up north and brought down here to the south and made a slave. And he was a well-to-do person up north. They captured him. They had a system within uh, New York. I think it was there where he was at, Philadelphia, and they was getting black folks and running them back down south, selling them as slaves. Yeah, is that something?
Right, because you know it has to be the Lord of hosts for them to even be talking about it.
Right,
And, you know, just like with everything, the timing of it all.
right, exactly. Yeah, the timing. Yeah, that's what you got to look at. The timing of it. Yeah. Okay, what's up, Markel? Yeah, I'm gonna play this here. Then I'm open up for Q&A. We'll go right into a conversation on try to finish off on what we was talking about on the Sabbath Friday night. So this was the need to know information right here. Okay.
Investors to figure out this problem is the announcement from the Social Security Administration that it is going to be raising the payments next year. These are the COLAs by 8.7%. That is the biggest increase in 40 years. That's going to cost the government over $100 billion. So that adds over $100 billion each year to the budget deficits, which adds to the national debt. How could this not be inflationary? And of course, not only are these larger deficits inflationary, which ultimately will be financed by the Fed, but what do the people who receive the $100 billion do with the money when they get it? They go out and spend it. So in other words, prices are going up and the government responds by printing more money and sending it to people so they have more money to pay those higher prices, which means the prices go even higher. People are supposed to cut back when prices go up. But if the government gives everybody more money to pay the higher prices, then you're just fueling the inflation. And it's like a dog chasing its tail. You're never going to catch it, which is why the government's never going to bring inflation down. And that's why gold needs to be going up. That's why the dollar needs to be going down. 30-year Treasury bond yields are still a hair below 4%. Now, that's the only maturity that's still below 4%. But when inflation is over 8%, the only reason that 30-year government bonds yield under 4% is because the markets still expect the Fed to win its fight against inflation. Once the markets realize the Fed is going to concede and inflation is going to win, then bonds are going to fall through the floor and gold's going to go through the roof. And of course, the dollar is also going to tank along with bonds. And if the Federal Reserve tries to stop bond prices from collapsing by printing even more dollars, that will only make the dollar weaker and gold stronger. But again, it's not just Social Security outlays that are going up. What about interest payments on the national debt? The government is having to pay 4% now to borrow money instead of a quarter of 1%. You're talking about a 16-fold increase in the cost of refinancing debt as it matures that has to roll over. And again, anything really above 50% of GDP is too big a number. So because these tax cuts threaten to send British debt to GDP even higher, investors rightly dumped the pound. But what did they do? They bought dollars. They sold pounds for dollars. UK, but it's actually higher than 125% because that's just the federal debt. If you add the local, which is municipal debt and state debt, to that, now you're at 140% of GDP. We're in a much bigger fiscal mess than Great Britain. So selling pounds and buying dollars because you're worried that Britain has too much debt is jumping from the frying pan into the fire. But
Yeah, so what's going on with that is what the guy is trying to inform people is that the collapse already started. He's saying that we're in the midst of the collapse. Anybody got any comments on that?
So is that why they want to give us reparations now? Because the dollar ain't gonna be worth nothing.
Exactly. Just like those payouts they was giving everybody. They already showed you they're capable of meeting out the money, but they want us to think that what's holding it up is they trying to figure out a way how to meet it out, but they already showed us they can do that with those stimulus checks. Yeah.
That all makes sense. It all makes sense now. It's adding up.
What's up, Kobe? What's up, Mike? What's up, y'all on the channel? You might need to talk. You got anything to say? Okay. Comment? Okay. So with that being said, I was gonna open it up for for some Q&A, and then we're gonna after we do the Q&A, we're gonna go into you know, I guess you can say part 2 of the Sabbath discussion. Anybody got any comments or questions about this morning or anything they came across they wanted to shine a light on or discuss it? Okay, nobody have any comments? So like I was saying before, we're gonna pick up with that what we was talking about the Shabbat and how it, you know, people's perception on how that goes, how that is supposed to be kept or either you know, performed. So with that being said, I'm gonna play this video first. Then somebody have something they wanted to say, they can say it. But so let me play this video.
When does a day begin and end according to Scripture? And this comes up every Sabbath. When does the Sabbath day start and when does the Sabbath day end? Now, when I first began observing the seventh-day Sabbath, I assumed that the day began after midnight on Friday. I don't know if anyone else was in that boat, but yeah, there's one. And so, you know, that's how I kept it. And then it went through to midnight that Saturday. However, when I came into contact with the Church of God, they showed me from the Bible that God's way of reckoning time was different. Now, in some ways, this is a very, very simple message, but it is something that plays into this time of year, plays into every Sabbath day, and it's not something that's necessarily understood by everybody. I think a lot of us take it for granted. We get it. How does the Bible do it? Well, a day begins and ends with sunset. A day begins with a sunset and a day ends with sunset. In the Bible, if you think about it, I'm going to ask you to walk through this with me. The Bible presents us with a very simple way of reckoning the beginning and the end of a day. According to the Bible, each day of the week begins and ends with the setting of the sun, which everybody can see. And using the sunset gives us a very easy, simple way of determining each day based on observation, based on your own two eyes built into your own little head. You don't need to know astronomy and you don't need to know mathematics to figure out when the day begins and the day ends, when the sun sets, right? It's very simple. That's how God does things. Using the sunset gives us a really easy way to determine by observation rather than advanced knowledge of the solar system. So why does modern society, which we all live in, begin the day at midnight? It's a long story. I'm not going to try and go into all of the history. We had our history lesson last time, I suppose, right? The modern method of beginning a day at midnight is based on calculating the moment when our location is at its furthest point from the sun as Earth rotates in its orbit. I hope I said that right. But it's based on our relationship to the sun. And noon, of course, is the moment when the sun is closest. You know, when you got your little sundials and the shadows at its shortest. And so midnight is the opposite of noon. While this is astronomically correct and very accurate, this humanly devised method is not one that the average person is able to calculate without assistance. Let me give you, for instance. If you have a young child, 4, 5, even younger perhaps, and you were to say to your son or daughter, hey, stand out on the back porch and just call out when the sun sets, when you can no longer see the sun, let's assume you've got a clear horizon, and let daddy know, okay, dad, the Sabbath has begun. Now, your 4-year-old child would be able to do that. They'd be able to sit out on the back porch. They'd be able to see the sun when it went down and call out, hey, Dad, Sabbath just started, right? Wouldn't they? So they'd be able to tell when a day begins or ends, if you want to take the flip side of it. It's available to everyone. even a child. You can see when a day begins and when a day ends. Now, by contrast, let's say you, the smartest of you, were out in a field. Okay, no smartphone, no watch. And let's say that you are out in the field from 10 in the evening to, say, 3. How in the world would you know when the day begins and the day ends? You'd have no idea. You just wouldn't, without assistance. I mean, if you're an expert in astronomy and stars and stuff like that, perhaps you could figure it out, but you'd probably need some instruments of measurement to go along with it. So it's a method of calculating days beginning and days ending that it's accurate, but it puts it out of reach of the average man, woman, and child. Whereas God's way is very simple and levels the playing field. Everybody knows when a day begins and ends using God's method. Now, sometimes I think when you're coming at it from the very beginning, like, when I first started keeping the Sabbath, a reaction can be, man, why does everything biblical have to be so complicated? If you start thinking about Passover, and I did it this year, I'd already kind of adjusted the Passover. We kept the Passover yesterday by most people's reckoning, but we didn't because the day began when the sun went down. The 14th of Nisan began when the sun went down. Today is still the 14th of Nisan, and it will end when the sun goes down. So I was working on the calendar, and I'd sent out a first draft to all the elders, and Mr. Boykin got back to me and said, you've got the wrong date, because I had already adjusted it forward, and then I did it again, thinking, well, I need to adjust it forward. So I double dipped on that. So even after 35 years of doing this, it's a mental adjustment, because we are so ingrained with thinking of the day beginning at midnight. And it causes issues once in a while for people, particularly around the Passover. Not so much with the Sabbath. People seem to be able to wrap their mind around the weekly Sabbath that it begins in the evening. But the Passover creates a special degree of mental tension. Scripture tells us that days begin at sunset. Go to Genesis 1. Very beginning of your Bible sets this straight. In Genesis 1, verse 14, we're told, God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, days, and years. That's their purpose, okay? Now, if you take a look at verse 5, for example, it says, then there was evening, and then there was morning, that was the first day. Okay, then verse 8 says the same thing. There was evening, there was morning. That was the second day. Verse 13, 19, 23, and 31. Those are the days, and they're all spelled out. There was evening, and then there was day. That's biblical reckoning of time. Now, in the Bible, evening begins when the sun went down. Let's take a somewhat obscure verse here in Nehemiah 13, verse 19. Nehemiah 13, verse 19. This is looking at the weekly Sabbath, not the Passover. Where am I? Nehemiah, come on, rascal. Nehemiah 13, verse 19. Did I say that wrong? When evening shadows fell on the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, I ordered the doors to be shut and not open until the Sabbath was over. This was Nehemiah trying to get these people keeping the Sabbath properly. So there, the Sabbath is about to begin when the evening comes. God commands that his Sabbaths are to be observed from evening to evening, which is what we do. Leviticus 23, verse 32, referring to the Day of Atonement, with a special emphasis on fasting and so forth. It says in verse 23, it is a day of Sabbath rest for you, and you must deny yourselves. From the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening, you are to observe your Sabbath. So this day was reckoned from evening to evening. Evenings begin the day, evening end the day. Exodus 12, verse 18. In the first month you are to eat bread made without yeast from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. So, from the end of the 14th day to the end of the 21st day. The New Testament also uses sunset as the way to begin and end days. Quick example, Mark 1, verse 32. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. So after the sun had set, when the Sabbath was over, the crowds brought ailing people to him to be healed. They'd waited until after the Sabbath because the Pharisees had said, we can't do healings on the Sabbath, which is a different subject. Now, the gospel accounts also record that Joseph of Arimathea entombed Jesus' body before evening. Let's take a look at Mark 15, verse 42. Mark 15, verse 42. It was preparation day, that is the day before the Sabbath. So as evening approached, etc., 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 Joseph of Arimathea, prominent member of the council, asked if he could get Jesus' body, he could entomb it because he wanted to get it wrapped up before the high day. Luke 23, verse 50, same thing. Luke 23, verse 50. Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, good, upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action, and he came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he himself was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and then he took it down, wrapped it in linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had yet been laid. It was preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. Now let's compare that to John 19, verse 31. This is the verse that lets us know that this was not just any old Sabbath day. Not that every Sabbath day is not special, but it was a high day. This was the first day of unleavened bread that was coming along on the annual Sabbaths. John 19, verse 31 says, now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath, or a high day Sabbath. And because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, they asked Pilate to break legs, etc. They wanted to hasten this whole process so we get it all taken care of, so that we don't have these guys that we just sent to death hanging out there on the Sabbath. So if you think about this subject, this was my thinking on it. God, the creator of the Sabbath, God, the creator of the holy days, has given us a method for determining when days begin and when days end. And his way is very simple. And I love the fact that it's something that everyone in this room can do without any special advanced knowledge, without any calculation instruments or anything like that. You can know when a day begins and when a day ends. Okay? I just love the way it levels the playing field. It's a way that's understandable and available to all of us based on the power of observation.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Shalom.
Okay.
That's why the Lord of hosts gave his word to Jacob and not Esau. That guy was speaking with a forked tongue because he was like when he was talking about the Day of Atonement, that was a feast day. Then he was talking about what was that? The week of unleavened bread that starts in the evening and it goes a whole week and then it ends on the evening. These were special circumstances.
Okay.
And even in the new Trashman, where he was talking about they had to get JC off the cross before the Sabbath, it was in the evening, so the Sabbath was in the morning. But what I wanted to share was in the book of Adam and Eve.
Right.
Um, this is about, it's chapter 14, and it's called The Fall of Adam and Why Night and Day Were Created. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
just to give a little context, this is when Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden. And when they got kicked out of the garden, they when they were in the garden, the Lord of hosts was their light. So they didn't even know what the darkness was or the sun. So when they saw it, they was afraid. They thought that the Most High was plaguing them some more. So
Right.
anyway, um, this is it's just a couple of verses here. This is
Right.
what it says, why night and day were created. Because what I'm saying is that a day starts in sunrise, not in the evening, as
Right.
Esau was saying. So this is what it says in verse 9. But in my mercy I have made thee as thou art, when thou didst transgress my commandment, O Adam. I drove thee from the garden and made thee come forth into this land and commanded thee to dwell in this cave. And darkness came upon thee as it did upon him who transgressed my commandment. Thus, O Adam, has this night deceived thee. It is not to last forever, but it is only of 12 hours. When it is over, daylight will return. Sigh not, therefore, neither be moved, and say not in thy heart that this darkness is long and drags on wearily, and say not in thy heart that I plague thee with it. Strengthen thy heart and be not afraid. This darkness is not a punishment. But, O Adam, I have made the day and have placed the sun in it to give light, in order that thou and thy children should do your work. And O Adam, I have made the day for thee and for thy children after thee, for them to work and toil therein. And I have made the night for them to rest in it from their work, and for the beasts of the field to go forth by night and seek their food. But little of darkness now remains, O Adam, and daylight will soon appear. So then what I did after reading that, I went to the Bible, Zondervan Bible Dictionary. And if you look up day, it says clearly, it says day, a word having various meanings in the Bible, denoting time from sunrise to sunset in Psalms 74:16. It also means a time in general, Judges 18:30 and Obadiah 12, Job 18 and 20. And it also means a length of time. So then after that, I went to night and on the dictionary, and it told me to go to time. And I'll check this out. This right here was really interesting because in the dictionary, they broke it all the way down. This is how they got time.
Okay.
They tell you when it changed and everything. When we started making daylight starting at midnight and all of that. You guys can, I'm not gonna read all of it. Just just the beginning. Okay. It says time. In the early biblical period, time was marked by sunrise and sunset, phases of the moon, and location of few constellations. But there were no accurate but there were no names for the days and months and no accurate knowledge of the years. And then it goes, it's long. So you guys, if you have a dictionary, you can look it up. But when you go down, it says that the Rome that says uh, the uh, the Rome's changed it in 7753 BC. They started the 12-hour cycle, making mid is where they had the nights. The new day start at midnight. But the original, in the beginning, it was from sunrise to sunset.
Right. Okay. Yeah. When you say when you said I forgot I forgot what I was gonna say, but you said yeah, they didn't have no. It says that from the dictionary, it said that it had no accurate time. So how was they able to tell you how old Adam and how old all them was?
They just said in the beginning of time, they said that it first began from sunrise to sunset, and then it goes down in the dictionary telling you who changed it and when. So it's long, it's a lot
Right.
to read. So that's what I'm saying. You guys can
Right. Right.
look it up in the dictionary. But at
Right.
first that's what it was. And I said and like I said in the book of Adam and Eve, it don't get no further back than Adam and Eve when he was telling us what a day was and and what
Right.
nighttime was for. He said daytime was to work and do your toil, nighttime was for resting.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
So
Yeah.
so then therefore you can't start a day at night. That makes no sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna read. But I was gonna read last night, but I'll read it now. It's in Jubilees, chapter 1, 26. Then I'm gonna bump it off of Genesis chapter 1. It says, "And do thou write down for thyself." Mr. Michael talking to Moses, "And do thou write down for thyself all these words which I declare unto thee on this mountain, the first and the last, which shall come to pass." Here you go right here. Come to pass in the division of the days, in the law, and in the testimony, and in the weeks, and in the jubilees, until eternity, until I descend and dwell with them throughout eternity. So when he says, which shall come to pass in all the division of days. So you go to Genesis, uh, Genesis chapter 1, right? And then it says, yeah, chapter 1, starting at verse 3. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light, that it was good. And he divided the light from the darkness. And that's what Genesis chapter Jubilees 126 saying the same thing. It says that in the division of the days. And by the division of the days, you mark the years in the Jubilees, but it's all predicated and start from when he divided the day. And verse 5 says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay. See anybody else have any comments?
No, I'm good, but that was very interesting.
What's that? What I just said?
Yeah, about the time
Right,
and
right, right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, it's the thing about it is from our perspectives, people give the opportunity, which is what my motto is over here on Prophets of Awakening is, you got to go in and write it, divide it on your own. The evidence, we're gonna put the evidence is gonna be laid out there. You can, you can take those evidence and bounce them around and then come to the conclusion that with the unction of with the unction of the Lord of hosts, you come to a conclusion, your conclusion. But
Okay.
like I was saying last night, it's it's pretty much the same thing being said. It's just not it's coming from a different perspective. Like the guy was saying, if you go to Egypt and with those fallen angels and all that they was doing, with the technology that they had, they super intelligent. But he's saying all you have to do is watch the sun, and you can figure it out from watching the sun. And that's what our forefathers was doing when they kept the when they was keeping those feast days. They had to observe both the lights that he created. They had to observe the moon and they had to observe the sun. That's how they write it. That's how they couldn't go wrong from doing that. And
Okay.
go ahead, what you say? Somebody else said something? Oh yeah, so yeah, that's all you have to do is watch. You know, he said watch the sun and the moon, and then like for instance, when he was talking to Adam, we know evidently from my observation, when you understand that that the garden it was actually in another dimension when you think about it, because of whenever he brought them out of the garden, when you're in the book of Adam and Eve, Adam was afraid of the darkness. He had never seen darkness, so he couldn't have been in this dimension. So when he brought him out of the darkness, Adam was afraid. That's why the Lord of hosts had to come to him and tell him, this ain't gonna last long. It ain't gonna last but 12 hours. Then the light gonna come. But him and Eve they ain't know nothing about that. So they were scared as hell. They thought it was gonna be forever dark. But he had to come and let them know what was the operations of his creation. Go ahead. You saying something, D-Ray?
No, I had accidentally hit the button. But yeah, that makes sense though. That makes a lot of sense. I'm looking now.
Yeah. And so, like I was saying, it's pretty much it's being looked at from a different angle, but it's the same thing. You can't. I mean, I can get on top of the World Trade Center at 6 o'clock and jump off of there and call myself going stop the sun from going down. When I hit the ground, sun still gonna come. Sun gonna still go down. And the same thing in the morning. These lights he created gonna still do the same thing. They still gonna do the same thing like the guy was saying. And the Most High told us for signs. And even like we was another thing to interject in that too is that when you go back, he said that the Sabbath day, right, is for man. So when you understand that the daylight, just like he just told Adam, daylight for you to do what you have to do. So we said the Sabbath, the day is for man. Sabbath day is for man. But guess what? Who the night for?
But wasn't the Most High was keeping the Sabbath before man?
Yeah, the angels.
Yeah, they was keeping it first. So we
Right.
were just blessed enough to be able to take part in the Sabbath because we as chosen people.
Right. But
the Sabbath wasn't made for man. They was keeping it already.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. It was made for man. And so then he says that the Sabbath year, 6 years, that you till the ground, but the 7th year you let the ground rest. So this is the Creator taking care of creation. He says the Sabbath day for man, Sabbath year is for the earth. So why is he doing that? Everything works. Everything working. Everything works when the system is set in place. When it's in place, everything works. So these angels came down and they threw that off. That's why we're in the place where we're at now. That's why the climate, everything off because we're not doing that. What he said, the earth and everything is not doing what he set it in place to do it at the beginning.
Okay, so in the book,
the angels came at night. Anyway, that's what I was going to say. The angels, go ahead.
So when I was just reading in the book of Adam and Eve, when the Most High said what a day was for and what the night was for, so you're saying that that's not correct?
No, all I'm saying is that no matter what we talk about or say, it's the sun.
We're
Evening is
rightly
when evening is when the sun go down. That's what he just said. He said it in he said it in about
right.
three
That's
different
the end
places.
of the day. That's the end of the
Right.
day, and then night begins. You got two parts to a day. You got day and night, but a day is from sunrise to sunset. And then you got the evening. The day grows to a close. It becomes the evening, and then you have the night. But just like what Esau was saying, he was saying that evening to evening, you can know when a day begins by when you see the light in the sky in the morning.
Well,
And also, C. Taylor was saying, I always talk about the books being hijacked. All the books are hijacked. That's why you have to pray and ask for wisdom and be able to rightly divide. But
right.
everybody in each is, you guys can continue to do. I was just trying to shed some light on it. You can
That's
either
all we're
take
doing.
it or, receive it or leave it.
Yeah, we just
You don't have
dialogue.
to get smart, Michael.
Well, I'm just we just dialogue. So this is like I was saying. I mean, these kind of conversations, everything that comes into play, you use it in order to rightly divide it. So, a man yesterday that was on here, he made mention that about it's two twilights. It's when the sun going down. It's a twilight in between when the sun going down and then it getting dark, and it's a twilight when the sun is coming up,
Right.
and then and daylight comes. So, but what the scriptures is saying, and what Lord of Hosts is telling our forefathers, he's saying the evening is when is a day. He's saying that when the twilight come in the evening, to the next twilight in the evening is a day. So I'm able to come to that conclusion because of the information that he presented yesterday. That's what he's saying. That's why it's saying evening to evening. From one twilight in the evening, from that evening, like we said about the three oblations, the three rams are being three rams are being sacrificed. One in the morning, when the sun coming up, one at noon, then one in the evening.
Right
So
in the morning starts the day. That's the only
right,
point that I'm trying to tell you guys, that nighttime don't start in that night doesn't begin a day. The sun in the morning begins the day. That's just nature. That's the way it is. So, like I said, but we can keep going back and forth because everybody's stuck on what they gonna believe. So
it's a lot. I mean, a lot of information coming out. So I'm just like I'm tallying it up. I'm hoping everybody else is checking all this information too.
Yeah, we're just trying to understand. So,
Right,
are you
exactly.
saying that when the sun goes down, that starts morning?
Now she's saying in the morning is when the sun rises. It's starting a day, a complete day is when the sun come up in the morning, and then when the sun go down in the evening, that's a complete day.
Okay,
that's
okay.
that's that's the day, and then you got nighttime. Then night begins. You got 12 hours in the daytime, and you got 12 hours for the night. That's what we were just reading in the book of Adam and Eve. Because he said, "Oh, Adam, you got it's 12 hours, and then morning's gonna come again. You gonna be okay."
Okay, so
It wouldn't be making sense. I mean, and then if Shabbat started at night, I mean, the Shabbat is rest. You already resting at night. You Shabbat is the day when you would normally be up doing your thing, working. That's why
okay,
you stop and rest. You're already sleeping at night.
right. So let's look at that. Let's look at that. So another thing that was said. I mean, because like I said, I'm tallying everything up. So we sitting here right now. We know we got nocturnal animals. We got nocturnal animals that at night. And so when you was reading the Adam and Eve, he said he got the night is for animals to find their way through the night and for them to eat. So when you let's look at that. When you say it don't make sense for the day to start at night, okay. So this is another thing that don't make sense. I'm a I'm a work first and then rest, or I'm a rest then be ready to work. What you want to come first? I'm gonna be rested up. I'm gonna rest up first. Then when the sun come out, I go to work. Or I'm gonna work first, then rest. How that work? Something to think about.
Hopefully you're going to work first and then rest. And to the brother to say, is she teaching? No, I'm just sharing, okay? So you guys don't be trying to be with your little slick comments, okay? We are all the children of Israel. We just trying
You're
to
right,
learn.
right. You're doing good, man. You're doing good. It's very informational. A lot of people emotions might get the things that they might think they've read. Everybody's just trying to really seek the truth. So I
Right.
mean, what you're saying is beneficial to me. I go back from what you said and try to do my studies and to see what I come up with. The same way with another person, you know. I mean, you doing your job. You're doing good.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Like I was saying, I was it kind of was left hanging yesterday, last night. So I'm just you know, uh trying to make it, bring it around with, put some more information out there for anybody that's trying to search it out. And like I said, from my observation, the same thing is being said. It's just that I think parts of it is being perceived in a different way, but the same thing is happening because of, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it last night or not, but in the beginning, you got two Adams. You got mankind is Adam. Then you got a man called Adam. You got a man called Israel, and you got a nation of people called Israel. It's the same with that. You got a day. It's 2 days. You got a day, which is, in other words, daylight. So when the sun come up in the morning till the sun go down, that's daylight. It's not a whole day, but it's daylight. Then you got the other part of that day, which is the night. So that's one day, that's a day, but you also got daylight, day. Like he was saying, he told Adam, I created the day, the light, for you to do your business and work. But that's only part of the day. So when you go and look at when he was talking to Noah, he said 40 days and 40 nights. And then it's another situation where he mentioned 40 days and 40, he mentioned day and night. But when you talking about uh, keeping the Shabbat, yeah, when the part of the Shabbat that come around where the daylight is when you deal with the Shabbat. But the Shabbat got another part to it. So like I said, the same thing being said. All the thing is I see from what I see is you putting emphasis on the day part of it. But it's two parts to it because he divided it back in Genesis chapter 1, verse 4. He said he divided the day. And it's like it's not only you, it's other people. They focusing on the day part of it, but it's more to it than just the day part. Because, like I was saying, you're gonna rest first, then work, or work first, then rest. The same thing with the moon. The moon got phases to it, and that's what our forefathers, the priests, the Levites, are looking at the moon. They can't figure out nothing when it comes to the high holy days unless they first look at the moon. Once they look at the moon, then they know what's coming.
Exactly. When they
So
look
you
at
can't
the
exclude the
moon,
moon. So you can't exclude the moon in the darkness. You can't exclude that.
right? Just like when, like you said, the new moon. How
Right.
would you know that, the new moon, that means that just meant a new month, right? So when you saw the new moon that night, then you knew that the next day was the beginning of, that was the new month.
Right.
That's when you celebrated it. That's when
But
they all met up and
right,
they
but you
came
got
together
12 days.
on the new month, on the new moons, right?
Right, but you got that's true. But you got other phases, like they call them slivers. No, slivers is where you get your Shabbat from. So they gotta see that first to know that the next when the daylight comes is the Shabbat.
Huh?
You got
The
slivers.
Shabbat is not, you don't have to see the sliver of the moon every Shabbat. What do you mean? The
No,
Shabbat, you mean the 7-day Shabbat or the new moon Shabbat?
no 6 days. 6 days.
Okay, on every 6 days, you don't have a sliver of a moon.
No, you got different. I mean, you got to bring it up. When we have a conversation, you can go and bring up the phases of the moon. You'll see what I'm talking about. So according to how much darkness over the moon, you can tell what day it is. So you work in 6 days, and then the 7th day you keep it a Sabbath. So you got to know that same phase of the moon at that same time gonna tell you if it's Shabbat or not.
Because when we read in Jubilees last night, it said that the sun was for Sabbaths. So we just still going around and around and around. I'll land my plane.
All I'm saying is it's the same thing being said. It's the way you approaching it, but the same thing being said. Because even as we talking, the sun gonna still do the same thing, and the moon gonna do the same thing. From back when Noah was on the earth, it's still doing the same thing it was doing then. We got nocturnal animals that's operating at night. The angels operating at night. They're doing the same thing now that they were doing back then. So it's about how we approaching it, but it's still being executed the way that the Most High set it in place. It's just how we perceiving it. Yeah. Okay. Right. So anybody else got anything? We right at an hour. I was just trying to put some kind of closure on it. Everybody good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I appreciate all the information from everybody.
Okay. Yeah. This y'all only channel. You got anything to say? I mean, I was trying to figure out you got a website or whatever, it's not every day you see a y'all only channel. Try to make some contact. Okay.
Everybody check him out. That's his YouTube channel. It's called Yah Only. He's on YouTube.
If you find out some information on it, then okay. So with that being said, like I said, we didn't completed another Shabbat, and I enjoyed everybody, and I'll see everybody Tuesday at 8 o'clock for our let me get this. Yeah, for our advanced Bible study on Tuesday nights. Shalom.
Shalom, kings and queens.
Okay.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.